All right, what's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Join alongside Emilio in Tennessee. We got Tim live in Green Bay. We got Jacob in Wisconsin. Just here to talk a little Packers this evening, gentlemen. Hopefully the weather was good where you were. Me and Emilio were just right at the gates of hell down here in Tennessee right now. It is so hot.
It is toasty out there, man. You better if you haven't drank a gallon of water, you're already behind.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Jacob, Tim, how was y'all's day, fellas?
Good.
I was good. Tim, it was about 85 and a little balmy today here.
Yeah, I got some sun. I went out like a fool and cut some grass during the daytime like these guys,
There you go. That's what I'm talking about, man.
Yes,
That's what I'm talking about. So, obviously, Emilio, I hate it when people do this on Packers or any kind of football podcast, so we'll keep it very brief. But obviously, the UT Vols just won the national championship, college baseball. I bet Knoxville was lit today, wasn't it, man?
Man, all you saw was flags on people's car driving around. It was unreal. But, yeah, no, I heard there was a parade that was going to I forgot where it started. It's going to end at Market Square, and I guess the Rangers going all night. It's probably going to go all week. This weekend's probably going to be unreal. But, yeah, congrats to them. First time in team history, so congrats.
Absolutely. Pretty cool, man. And, again, the reason I bring it up is when the College World Series wraps up, we're so close to football, boys.
Yeah.
It's right around the corner. So,
yeah, be honest, I don't watch baseball. That was the little bit I did was those last few games. And I think it's just that champion, the playoff atmosphere, it brings the best out of everybody, different feel. Same with hockey, you throw it on just because it's on. But now we are just waiting for football to start. So we don't have anything else.
And while you're waiting on football, now is a great time to hop over to Ticket King. Nice. The official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access, Wisconsin-based since 1992, specializing in Packers tickets. They are Wisconsin's largest ticket source with offices next to Lambeau Field and in Milwaukee. You can click on the link in the video description that'll send you to theticketking.com, where you can register for free as a customer and go ahead and get your tickets filled this season, man. Go ahead and get everything squared away. I know we've already got some tickets in the hopper. For a couple of different games we may potentially go to. I know we got Tennessee already tied up. We're going to be going down watching the Titans play. And I'm telling you, man, any Packers tickets you're looking for, make sure you check with theticketking.com first before going anywhere else. They're going to be able to save you time and money. Again, Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access. We appreciate them sponsoring the show as always. So what I thought we would do, Jacob, we had an article that you sent me the other day just talking about 12 Packers on the roster bubble following minicamp. And just to kind of give everybody an updated look. And again, this is from MSN. I believe it's from just MSN.com is what it says here. So we're going to pull that article up and check it out. I've also got the depth chart handy here, so we can kind of revert back to it. I figure we use the same format we did last night and just kind of go through it and get everybody's take on each of these roster bubble spots. I think that would be really cool. And we also got a screen grab here from last year's final 53-man roster, the cut down from camp. So we can kind of take a look at that as we go along, too. Does that sound good, fellas?
Yes.
All right, let's do it, man. So let's jump right into the article here. Obviously, it says 12 Packers on the roster bubble following mini camp. Number 1, or I should say number 12, they do a countdown. Number 12, Anders Carlson. All right, it says Carlson finds himself in a three-way battle for the Packers kicking job, competing against Greg Joseph and Jack Poodlesny, who is no longer on the roster, actually. Jacob sent this a few days ago. However, I will say this. We have another kicker that is on the depth chart now. If we take a quick look here, you got Anders Carlson, Greg Joseph, and now you got James Turner. Sounds like a pirate from Pirates of the Caribbean, doesn't it? That's Will Turner's uncle out there kicking field goals for the Packers right now. So that's how that sits right there as far as Anders Carlson's competition. How do we feel about that, fellas? Do you think – because there's been a lot of spirited debate. It's hilarious. It's the offseason when everybody gets fired up talking about kickers. But many people are saying, this is just kind of a fake camp battle, if you will. Others are going, no, this is legit competition. Anders is going to be, kind of competing for his job. I'd just like to know what you guys think about that. Because for me, I kind of feel like it's Anders' job to lose. But at the same time, if Greg Joseph comes out or even James Turner comes out, and they just light it up in camp, there's a realistic chance that they could try to stash Anders on the practice squad, obviously. But what do you guys think about that? Let's just go around the horn. We'll start with you, Emilio. What do you think?
Yeah, I still think it's going to come down to the fact that he's on his rookie deal and that he didn't play terrible last year. All the rewinds that we've done, he really has looked fine because we're not really watching the extra points. So I think there's going to be a battle. I think that you need that throughout, and they may even keep him on the practice squad, the other kicker. But there's I still think it's going to be Anders to hang on to.
Yeah. Tim, resident kicker, sir. What do you think?
I think it's somewhere in between the two. I don't think it's necessarily a quote unquote camp leg situation, but I think they are trying to put a little bit of pressure on Anders and maybe let him know that the leash is a little shorter this year. And if you're not going to perform, you're going to get pulled. And we've got personnel here ready to take your spot. That being said, I'm leaning more towards Clayton's point of view here, that it's Anders' job to lose. Emilio, you bring up a great point about the rookie contract and the fact that, he wasn't a complete dumpster fire last year, guys. Let's be 100% honest here. Were there some disappointing misses? Of course. But he's a rookie. So we'll see what happens in year two. I will say this. I think, if anyone's got a shot to steal the job, it is Greg Joseph. So we'll see how this pans out going into camp and as we get through training camp. See how the kicks are flying out at Ray Nitschke Field this year.
Yeah, another thing too, Jacob, that kind of sticks out to me, there was at least 2, maybe 3 times that Anders missed a field goal, which we've already seen one. I think another one, if I remember correctly, comes in the 49ers game, which we'll get to here in a week or so, where Jordan kind of took a crucial sack in a specific situation where it made the kick much more difficult for Anders, right? And people just kind of throw that to the wayside because Jordan played so well in the second half. I don't know, man. How do you feel about Anders? Do you think people are being too hard on him? Do you think me and Tim are being too easy on him? What do you think with that, man?
I'm trying to remember what because I went up and down last year with Anders. I want to say that I was more in the camp of give it time. He's young. I know that for sure he statistically was, I think, better than Mason as far as the actual field goal percentage that rookie year. And he got, I think, actually for more than a few years of Mason's. But that being said, like Tim was talking about, I think that they're bringing in competition this year because it was so kind of unprecedented last year that a rookie kicker got no competition whatsoever. Just if anything, you want to get him used to having that competitive edge, that the type of nervousness of having to make game time kicks and competing against someone else and knowing that you're not just safe. That to me was a little odd choice. But this year they definitely, like Tim said again, Greg Joseph, that dude's a baller. We watched just on a Viking rewind. I mean, he's a solid NFL kicker. I honestly don't get why the Vikings let him go. I don't know what the situation was there, but barring somebody having some sort of you guys ever watch the movie Rookie of the Year? Remember that movie?
Yeah.
Where he has that accident and then he can all of a sudden throw 150-mile fastballs. That's what if something happened to Greg Josephs or Poodle Snoy, or no, not Poodle Snoy, if the other guy, Turner, if something happens to his knee and it heals back miraculously fast and the dude's booting 80-yard field goals, then we have a problem. But I don't see that happening. So I think
that would be a cool offense, though, Jacob. Be able to kick 80 yarders.
You go 3 and out on the 15, and you're like, well, we'll take 3.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing about kickers for sure is, you really appreciate when you have a good one. When one of the more underappreciated positions, and let's face it, it's a skill position. You talk about skill position groups. Being a place kicker is a skill position, in my opinion. And when you got one, you tend to take it for granted. And when you don't, boy, do you notice that you don't have a good kicker. So it's important that the Packers get this right. And I like the fact that we've got multiple legs at 1265 right now, getting some kicks up, and we'll see how this pans out.
Yeah, definitely. Blake in the chat said, Michigan fan here. Turner was all right last year, nowhere near the long distance ability of Jake Moody or Anders. So obviously Anders having a stronger leg there, according to a Michigan fan in Blake. United Bates in the house says, hope you get your pants on tonight, big dog. He says, we will see in camp, but feel like it will be Carlson. I agree, man. That's where I would have to put my money for sure. Ron Sanville says needs to be more consistent on extra points. Everyone misses some field goals. Amen. And then Smitty says, Clayton, I feel like there's some fair criticism, but people go way overboard. Said it yesterday. We are a society wanting instant gratification. Give the guy a chance. And again, like Jacob pointed out, if I remember correctly, the stats are correct there. He actually, his field goal percentage, forget the extra points, his field goal percentage was actually better than Mason Crosby in his first 4 years in the league. So again, Mason Crosby's extra point percentage much higher because they were snapping the ball from the two the majority of Mason's career before they moved it back there and changed the rules. So let's move on to number 11 on the list, which is Tyler Davis, tight end. Davis missed the entire 2023 season due to injury, but his excitement to be back for minicamp is palpable. Is that correct, guys? Did I say that right?
Yep. Nailed it.
I'm learning every day. So let's see. It says, while he's not expected to contribute significantly on offense, man, there's a slap, right? Those snaps will largely go to Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. Davis remains a special teams ace. He was one of, if not the most successful special teams players the year before he got hurt, right? So there's definitely value there. His versatility allows him to play on all special teams units, making him one of Rich Bisaccia's best weapons. So when you look at Tyler Davis, and obviously we look at the final 53 last year, this is the first thing that came to mind for me. We only carried 3 out of camp, which was Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, and Josiah DeGuara. So this year the question is, if we stick to that same format, that same blueprint, Josiah DeGuara's gone. Will it be Ben Sims or Tyler Davis? That's the big question for me, right? Ben Sims, I thought, played great. But does Ben Sims have the same value, on special teams that Tyler Davis does, and the same thing on the SIF block there as well, Jacob? But what do you guys think about Tyler Davis? Emilio, how you feeling about it?
I think that's a tough one because I think Ben Sims is a little bit better blocker than Tyler Davis off the bat. But, coming off an injury and everything, the only other thing I thought of was we have a lot more speed now. If, the thing we would need Hopper for is field goal – or I'm sorry, the thing we would need Davis for is field goal block. But – or blocking for an extra point, but everybody else we've picked up in the draft, safeties, linebackers, speed, getting downfield. He's not going to be – Tyler Davis isn't going to be one on kickoff anymore. You know what I mean? So it's like I think we're kind of switching now that all that running's gone. Like we just need guys to hit, go down, cover a punt, and if we can run the run the other tight ends out there, I don't think it would be terrible. I honestly think Ben Sims might make it, and they might throw unless – Tyler Davis has a practice squad eligibility or something, but work something like that. Keep one, put one on the other.
Definitely. 2-0 for this in the chat says Sims over Davis given Kraft's pec injury. That's a great point there as well. Coach Lynn says, I think they both make the cut for tight ends. Tim, I don't think that's out of the question there, right, man? The big question becomes, if you carry 4 based off of this model that we're showing you guys from last year, who else do you cut? Where do you cut?
That's what I'm saying. I kind of disagree. I think they're going to take 3. They're going to carry 3 tight ends probably. Look at the wide receiver room we have, and then we've gone from a 1-2 punch at running back, so to speak, to kind of a 1-2-3 punch in the running back room probably. So I'm assuming they're going to.
What about the D line or the linebacker room, Tim? You don't think we can shave a few off there, or?
What about is Dallin?
Don't you dare start picking at my defense, Jacob.
Hey, man, you know me. I need that Cox to get in there. I'm trying to make him make the cut.
Jesus. All right, so Dallin Levitt. Let me ask you guys about Dallin Levitt real quick. He is not on the roster this year, right? So last year we broke camp with Dallin Levitt. Shave him off the roster. Is there a chance we carry 4 safeties as opposed to 5? And I'm trying to look at positions we could potentially cut here. Devon Bullard's a lock. Evan Williams is a lock. Oladapo, if he's healthy, is a lock, which we always overlook this, and it never fails. When we break camp, somebody goes on IR, and there's the answer to the question, right? But that's 3 there. Xavier McKinney's 4. Anthony Johnson Jr. would be 5. So I don't think you can – if everyone's healthy coming out of camp, I don't think you could shave it out of the safety room there, but – what were you going to say there, Jacob, on Tyler Davis, your favorite player?
I mean, I kind of agree with Coach Len. I just, now that Tim brought it up, I don't know where, because there's no way to me that we're not keeping obviously X and Ant and then the 3 rookies like that right there. And you could argue, I guess, they couldn't really for any other one, but that's 5 right there that I want those guys on the team. Maybe you could argue the cornerback room. What did we keep? I can't remember with that. But even that's so deep. I mean, it is a good problem to have.
Yeah, we only carry
right, Jacob. Your initial reaction was inside linebackers. Maybe they carry 4 instead of 5 there.
And I mean, outside linebackers now is kind of D-end, right? Is that
timeout though? Remember, we're switching to a 4-3, so you're probably going to carry one less defensive lineman and one more linebacker, I would imagine, right?
Right. That's true.
That's tough, man. I'm telling you, bro. It's this roster. I don't want to say it's loaded, but it's really got some depth to it. Like there's. No matter what we end up going with on the final 53, we're all going to be sitting there going, man, that sucks that they had to cut him. You know,
we're going to really just have a lot of conversations about who do we think they can actually stash on the practice squad.
It'll probably be one of those. What if we take Tucker Kraft, Zach Tom? They're both still injured. We'll slide them in. Coming in on an injury. We'll keep 2 more on the roster to get us down to cut downs. Then we'll flop them over, put them on the practice squad. Kraft and Tom back on something like that.
Yeah, definitely. All right, number 10 on the list, Caleb Jones, offensive tackle. The Packers have swiftly rebuilt their offensive tackle depth with Rasheed Walker, Zach Tom, Jordan Morgan, Caleb Jones, Andre Dillard, and Luke Tenuta. Unfortunately, they can't keep all of them. With Walker, Tom, and Morgan as locks to make the roster, the battle will come down to Jones, Dillard, and Tenuta. If that's what the battle comes down to me, it depends on how much they really like Dillard. The fact that the second that Caleb Jones or the second that Zach Tom popped that pick, they immediately went and signed Dillard says a lot to me. If I had to choose between those 3 today, between Caleb Jones, Andre Dillard, and Tenuta, I'd probably go Dillard. And I know he hasn't played well, but he has played. Yeah. Right. And Caleb Jones, it just seems like he can't hardly get off the practice squad. Dillard's played for 2 different teams, albeit, but he has started too. So what do you guys think about that as far as Caleb Jones conversation here?
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, Tim, you start this one, buddy.
Make or break year for him for sure on multiple fronts, right? And he's got an uphill battle. There's plenty of competition. With the injuries that we have going into camp here on the O-line, guys are already shuffling around. We talked about Jordan Morgan playing all over the line and OTAs and things like that. So Caleb Jones this is the year he's got to make a giant step. I mean, he takes giant steps. He's a big dude. So, I mean, it should be natural for him. But, that would make things interesting because I'm kind of with you on this one again, Clayton. Probably Dillard would be my guy out of those 3. But if Caleb Jones is healthy and is consistent and has a good camp, there's a chance he, wins himself a spot. You never know.
Yeah. M. Smitty in the chat says Dillard over Jones. And then Angus McHaggis says Glover straight to the practice squad. Have not heard anything about him in OTAs. I could see that happening. I don't think anybody would type a 53 spot with Travis Glover. Again, he may come out in training camp and light it up too, right? We always get those type of stories. Ron Sanville says if anyone is going to let a free runner on Jordan, it's Dillard. Now you're trying to convince me. Now you got me worried over here. Jacob, what do you think, bub? Caleb Jones.
Yeah, I mean, it's another argument about how deep this team is at every position where, I know that they really liked Luke Tenuta last year before he had that injury, but it was a pretty bad injury. So there's that, that's a mark against him. If you look at even like we talked about, like I haven't heard anything from Glover. Like I have not heard not one thing. I mean, nothing from him. Kadeem Talford, and again, was another name that's been thrown around like, hey, we like what he does. He's another really large person, if I remember correctly. Caleb Jones, though, like you talked about, he just hasn't had the reps. Now, I don't know. What is it, like some possible mysterious ceiling versus a very established, pretty low-level floor versus Dillard and Jones? So it's like, I don't know which one we want to go to. And the thing is Dillard is still very young. And he was wasn't he like the 18th overall pick?
Yeah, I think 19 was,
19th. Okay. So, there obviously is something there. I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers keep him with the idea of like, hey, we're going to, in the next year to 2 years, we're going to develop him into an actual starting serviceable lineman. So,
yeah. Emilio, you got anything on this, bro?
I was going to say what Ron brought up here. Isn't Jones more of a tackle only just because of his size and his lack of speed, I would assume.
Isn't he like 6'7" or 6'8"?
He's a mountain, right?
Oh, huge.
An absolute mountain. The other thing I still fall back on is if we're not gonna, if we've worked on getting Caleb Jones at this point for 2 years now, why are we not going to give it 4 years with Glover and let him just roll out, put Caleb Jones on the practice squad or whatever, keep his 4-year rookie contract, get Glover on and try to work on him.
That's a great point, because with Caleb's body of work or lack thereof really in the past couple of years, he'd be a guy that might be safe on that practice squad, right? Probably not going to get snatched up right away. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, because they don't have – how much tape do they have on him? We haven't put him out there, so why not give a shot to Glover? We picked him up for a reason. They liked him enough to take him, so might as well, try to work with him.
And for what it's worth, this is ESPN's updated Green Bay Packers depth chart. They have left tackle Rasheed Walker, Jordan Morgan, then Andre Dillard, then Kadeem Telford. At right tackle, they've got Zach Tom, Luke Tenuta, then Travis Glover, then Caleb Jones. So they would seem to think Caleb Jones is the odd man out there for sure. So,
I think, his lack of versatility is what's hurting him, right? I mean, if he's strictly a tackle on an O-line where, we got a lot of plug and play guys, and, we know Goody likes the versatile players. Matt likes the versatile guys on his O-lines. So, being a right tackle pretty much exclusively, I haven't never seen him on the left side. I don't know if they tried that at all, but that's got to hurt him as far as getting reps. So
yeah. United Bates says Caleb Jones is listed at 6'9".
Thick.
Wow. Absolutely wild. So.
One thing too, they have Luke Tenuta as right tackle number 2. That to me, I think is maybe something we're not thinking about. Like I said, I knew they liked Tenuta a lot last year. And then that injury kind of derailed that whole progression with him. So
yeah, that's a great point. Number 9 on the bubble list here, Royce Newman. Hello, Newman. Offensive lineman. After starting 16 games during his rookie year, Royce Newman has seen his playing time decline each season. Let's see, next year he might not start at all. Newman is a popular cut candidate heading into the preseason thanks to Green Bay's added depth on the interior with Jacob Monk, Sean Ryan, and Travis Glover. All 3 could make the roster over Newman, who faces an uphill battle to prove his worth. Cutting Newman would also free up some cap space for the Packers, adding another layer of complexity to his situation. Newman needs to step up his game significantly in training camp to secure his spot on the team. The Packers front office will be closely watching to see if he can rise to the challenge and reclaim his place on this roster. For me, I'm kind of done with the whole Newman experiment. I don't know how you guys feel. Again, if we take a quick glance at the depth chart has it listed as Royce Newman being the backup left guard and Jacob Monk being the backup right guard. So,
really?
It's all going to come down to, in my opinion, can Dillard, and again, they got Jordan Morgan listed strictly as a left tackle. We know Jordan Morgan has been played at 4 different spots in OTAs, so he can fill in there at left guard. Obviously, I don't look at that like Royce Newman is our only backup left guard by no stretch of the imagination. But what do you guys think about that? Go around the horn with it. I don't care who starts, man.
I mean, he's got the best Kentucky waterfall on the team for sure. But
that's true.
That does mean something around these parts. So, but unfortunately, that seems to be the best thing he's got going so far. I'm with you, Clay, man. Again, 3rd time in a row here. I think I'm fully over the Newman experiment. He's had plenty of opportunities, and I don't know. I just feel like there's enough young talent on this whole line. It may be time to move on.
Yeah, you just give that Kentucky waterfall one of those. Run a comb through that thing, man. You know what I'm saying? Just good to go. Go ahead, Jacob. Sorry.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, we've, over the years, for whatever reason, the guy regressed really substantially. It's been kind of sad to see because I had high hopes for him. Love that business in the front, party in the back look that he's got going there. Unfortunately, I think that as much as we always say, hello, Newman, it's time to say goodbye, Newman.
I love it. Angus McHaggis says, once a guy clears waivers, team can protect up to 4 practice squad players week to week with other teams, if I'm understanding that right. Let's see. Randy Cleaver says, coaches are seeing way more than us. That's a fact, buddy. There's no doubt about that. This is interesting, too. Coach Lynn says, I wonder if there's a team out there that would trade for Newman. I can't imagine there's a team
rounder.
going, man, let's see if we can get him. But
Sixth
I
round
guarantee
pick.
you this: if we do cut him, one of the NFC North teams will snatch him up. That
Oh.
just seems to be what they do, right?
For sure. The Bears they're probably going to just pick him up. But honestly, I think it's kind of a numbers game looking at. I feel like we're going to go in with probably 10 offensive linemen, nine or 10 there. So, just pick it out. I think Royce is going to pull the short straw this year. If it's going to be a battle. If Monk doesn't show up, then Royce has a chance. But if Monk shows up and with everybody else rotating like that, I wouldn't see why they'd keep him around.
I love this. Fred McFarley jumped in and said, "Join late, but we need Jennings to beat out Newman."
Can we do a quick let's do a on the spot scenario if we have to keep, let's say all right, let's guess, are we taking 9, 10, or 11 linemen? Who do we pick right now? Go
10.
him. 10. I don't say 10. I want to know who of which 10.
Oh,
Come on.
wow. Sheed Walker,
Yeah.
Big E, Jordan Morgan.
You got to take Myers because he's on the last.
Yeah, Josh
deal.
Myers is a given. I would go, Jacob Monk.
Did that not piss anybody else off that Josh
Tenuta, Glover, and then I don't know. I do Kadeem Telfort. It'd be interesting to see.
Donovan Jennings,
how
though.
he goes.
That guy
Yeah,
apparently.
Yeah. It's tough to say, like you said, because we haven't seen camp. Talk to me after a few weeks of camp.
Yeah.
Let's see
We broke camp with 11 last year.
Yeah, I'm assuming we'll have at least 10 this
But
year.
if they can save a spot in the O line and keep another skill guy, I
That
think
would be the spot that they would, because they cross training him so much.
so heavy, right?
Makes sense. All right, so we'll see if Royce Newman lives to fight another season here, right? Feels like a Game of Thrones or something.
Yes. When you play the
right.
Game of Thrones, you live or die.
Number 8 on the list, Emmanuel Wilson, running back, obviously one of my favorite players on the team. This is tough. Final 53 last year, we broke camp with 3. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, and Emmanuel Wilson, so they'll probably break camp with 3 again. Now, you lose Aaron Jones, but you pick up Josh Jacobs. Oh, by the way, you pick up Marshawn Lloyd as well. I mean, the only chance for Emmanuel Wilson is to beat out A.J. Dillon, or the Packers say, hey, all 4 of these guys are so good, we're just going to have to carry 4 this year. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Bill Belichick would always carry 5 and sometimes 6 running backs breaking camp, which is just always wild to me. And he was winning Super Bowls doing it. I just don't see us building our roster that way with us. Like I said, Emilio, we talked about it all year long. You want to stay in 11 personnel as much as possible, man. That's how good the receivers are, right? It's a good problem to have, but what do you think about Emmanuel Wilson?
Yeah, coming back from the injury, I think he's going to be ready to roll, ready to play. The thing is spot wise, being 4th running back, man, that's tough. We haven't been heavy on it, enough for Matt to be like, all right, we're going to run 2 sidecar running backs all the time. It's not something he's kind of leaning on. So I think it's going to be one of those practice squad up and down sort of guys, unless he shows out and training, put him on kick coverage. If the dude goes down and hits somebody, we'll find a spot on him. Right. If he goes down there and makes plays in that, it's just a reverse run play. If you can still stick the guy, all right, you're playing. So I think anybody on the bubble has a chance at it like that. They got to work hard to get in special teams. But right now, I think Wilson's going to be practice squad.
Yeah. Angus in the chat says Wilson to the practice squad. I don't think he will get plucked and just go with 3 running backs. I think that's very, very good assessment, Tim. I think of all the running backs that you would potentially cut here, whether it's A.J. Dillon, Emmanuel Wilson, or, that's just it, basically. A.J. Dillon or Emmanuel Wilson. I think that Emmanuel Wilson probably has the best shot of clearing waivers, don't you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I can tell you, he was probably a little gut punched on draft day when we took Marshawn Lloyd. He probably thought, it's going to be an uphill battle now, because I believe Marshawn Lloyd is a star in the making. So I think it's Jacobs, Dillon, and Marshawn Lloyd. Those are your 3 running backs. Again, this is pre-camp, though. We could look and be having different conversations here in a few weeks. But Emmanuel Wilson's a gamer. Yeah. He really is. That guy is a gamer. Injuries kind of robbed him of more reps, because he was getting touches last year. Especially with, Jonesy going down there for a few weeks at a time. Emmanuel Wilson was really starting to hit his stride when he popped the shoulder, and we didn't get to see too much more of him. So I know he'll be hungry. You talk about a guy that's going to be an absolute dog at training camp. It's going to be fun to see him and Marshawn Lloyd battling for that third spot. But I think we can all agree that it's probably going to be Emmanuel Wilson to the practice squad for sure.
Yeah, Chris Nichols in the chat said A.J. Dillon could get cut. Why not? There's definitely no financial ramification to him getting cut, right? There's no guaranteed money, to the best of my knowledge, that's attached to A.J. Dillon. So
I think it's more of a body type at that point. That's why he would get snatched up too. You're looking for an experienced back that has that kind of weight that can still move.
Yeah, definitely. Fred McFarley in the chat said Jacobs, Lloyd, Dillon, we won't carry forward due to wide receiver depth. That's probably where my money would be too. Yeah. And then Ron Sample said chances are one of these guys will get dinged a little at some point as well. I could see somebody rolling an ankle, being on the IR for 4 weeks. You can see that happening, right? You never know. But Jacob, what do you think, man? Do you think Emmanuel Wilson's the kind of – it seems like all three of us here completely agree. Emmanuel Wilson probably try to stash him on the practice squad. What do you think, Jacob?
Yeah, I think that's most likely. I'm trying to, though, because every year, like you just talked about, in my head, as you're talking, I'm thinking, what is the most obscure, weird thing that the Packers, nobody thinks they're going to do because that's what they're going to do. It's kind of like in the draft with the first round. Who's the guy that nobody thinks they're going to pick in the first round? But it's like 5 people that you respect said they're going to do it, so you kind of like think it's an option. This is my thought process here is what if they randomly keep 2 running backs, keep like 7 receivers, you know what I mean? Throw a bunch of these guys on the practice squad. Do you guys think that A.J. Dillon could clear the practice squad?
I don't think so. Like I was saying, I think his quads, Jacob.
I feel like the Ravens are going to pick that dude up, or San Francisco.
Yeah.
No, you know who would? Dallas would pick him up.
Oh yeah. Dallas, San Fran, Ravens, any of those honestly would pick him up. But could you imagine him and Lamar and what Henry's over there now? So
I don't know how safe Emmanuel Wilson would even be, other than the fact maybe that there's little to no tape on him really from last year, just a few reps. But I don't know. He showed flashes to me. Maybe I'm just overly excited, but I don't know. I think he's going to be a gamer. It's going to be a tougher decision than I think we think off the bat here when camp's over with.
Definitely. Number 7 on the list, Michael Pratt, quarterback. An intense battle to be Jordan Love's backup will ensue during training camp and the preseason as both Michael Pratt and Sean Clifford push for the role. We got a glimpse of it during mini camp, but the best is still ahead. Pratt, a 7th-round pick in this year's draft, showed off his strong arm and solid decision-making during the offseason workout program. However, he still has a long way to go to actually challenge Clifford. Keep your eye on both guys, as the Packers probably won't keep 3 quarterbacks. I don't see them keeping 3 as well. I'll tell you this. There was rave reviews coming out of OTAs about Michael Pratt just throwing absolute seeds. We did the Chalk Talk. That actually was the first copyright strike on the channel. So I'll tell you, it was a good one too, man. He had some. It was worth it. He had some dots on there. Let me tell you. So
that was Emilio's fault, wasn't it? He was supposed to tell you.
Everything's Emilio's fault.
Oh, it's always
true.
fault.
That is true.
That's the way it works. But when it comes to Michael Pratt and Sean Clifford, boys, preseason is going to be so much fun to watch. I mean, we're going to see those dudes battle their asses off for that backup spot. I would have to choose Michael Pratt based off what I've seen. And you guys know I like Sean Clifford. I'm one of those guys that if some reason Jordan went down for a short bit, I feel like Sean Clifford could come in and probably win a game or 2. I really believe that. Yeah. But Michael Pratt just looked like, man, I don't know. I'm really excited to see what he does in camp and in preseason. If you guys had to choose today, what would your money be on here, Michael Pratt or Sean Clifford?
I don't like that question, to be honest. I really don't, because I think it's unfair. I think that what would be fair is ask me that. I'm kind of like Ron says here. Ask me that after the 3rd preseason game, because I've already seen enough out of Clifford, that big red dog, that I just want. I think that he has earned enough to at least get a spot, but I've seen and heard enough about Pratt where, he's younger, he's a little taller, he's got, I think, a lot better upside in the running department as far as with his legs. He just kind of seems like one of those Green Bay quarterback pipeline type guys they just can mold them. If anything, I'd like to keep. I don't know if we can get Clifford to the practice squad. I don't know if that would ever be a scenario that would happen, but if that's the case, I mean, I'd love to get back into the age where we draft a quarterback when we don't need one, groom him and actually make him into like a tradable type prospect and get a second or a third or a fourth or a fifth round pick for these guys. Cause that's the best thing you can do is to keep churning that roster. So that being said, I'll say Pratt.
I think you hit the nail on the head, man. Which one would most likely make it to the practice squad? Would be Sean Clifford or Michael Pratt? Michael Pratt, in some cases, people had a second-round grade on him. Right. Why did he drop? I have no idea.
And Clifford was not a UDFA, and we leaped up. Right.
Clifford was ranked on the consensus big board, and it's not everything, but, it is what it is, in the 500s. So I think you'd have a better shot of stashing Sean Clifford on the practice squad than Michael Pratt. But what do you think, Tim?
I think we're all in agreement here. You've got to remember that Clifford's older than Jordan Love as well. I think we drafted Michael Pratt for a reason. There was a reason when Goody saw him up there at the 7th round, we took him, and I don't think we took him to stick him on the practice squad. And if he did have as high as, 2nd round grading, he's on the radar. So he may not be safe on the practice squad. So I could see Clifford going there, pending a great training camp from Michael Pratt, which I think we'll see. And again, Jacob's right. Let's have this conversation after, that 3rd preseason game against the Ravens. Let's see what our backup QB situation really looks like at that point. It could be a real different scenario, but I go with Pratt at this point for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great point. You got me, because I was thinking, like, theoretically right now, if you were telling me right now, I would still pick Clifford, but that's just because Pratt hasn't had an off season or anything. He had OTAs and that, or he had camps and that was it. But to Jacob's point, what if we just carry all 3, work somebody else off the roster, then we're able to trade 1, 2 of them. We still have a backup, and Clifford still has a year of being behind Jordan, knowing what Jordan needs, seeing what he sees, all of that. A different addition, but that's a brutal question.
Like you just said, Emilio, that it seems so simple that, like, oh, well, obviously Clifford because he was ranked so low. But you remember the whole reason he was able to surpass that wide gap and was drafted wasn't it the 5th, is because the Packers specifically, in my opinion, thought, okay, we're not going to have Rodgers now. We need somebody that's actually had experience that can be kind of that really good second in command kind of quarterback. Like you just said, Emilio, he watches, he knows how to read defenses. He sees what's happening. He knows the playbook. He's good at communicating. He'll probably be in there with the headsets talking and helping with that kind of stuff like you did in college, and be able to like communicate better than most other backup quarterbacks that are rookies. So do you think the Packers organization are going to be, which this is where they could be living up to their name, being kind of cutthroat, where they're like, thanks for your service. We needed you. We know what we had. And now we don't need you anymore. Bye. We already got a new shinier model. The Leo DiCaprio approach. Okay. It's tried and true.
Yeah.
Leo has entered the chat, man. So I like what Chris Nichols says here, though. We took Clifford in the 5th, right? And we ended up taking Pratt in the 7th. So it shows you they had a higher draft grade on Clifford than Pratt. There's no two ways about that, right? The question now becomes, who are you more likely to get away with stashing on the practice squad? If you went based off of, like Chris Nichols is saying, just off draft status, probably going to try to stash Pratt, right? There's a chance of that. So Ron Sambo asked a great question. I don't have the answer to that. I'd love to know. Maybe Smitty can get on that. I wonder when the last time someone robbed a quarterback off a practice squad, because, again, they got to top a spot on that 53-man roster, right? You can't just stash them on your practice squad, obviously. So that's a great question. I'd like to know that. Let's move on to wide receiver. Number 6 and number 5 on the roster bubble list here is Samori Toure, wide receiver, and Grant DuBose. I'm not going to read the intro or the description here because we know quite a bit about both of these guys. Samori Toure 2 years ago played a little bit of a role when people were banged up. Obviously, he had the touchdown catch there in Buffalo, which was cool on the scramble drill from Aaron Rodgers. Grant DuBose, they were pretty high on. I remember everybody talking him up going into camp. He gets injured. When you look at the depth chart, though, this is where it gets really, really tricky. And there may be more wide receivers on down the line on this list. We'll check here in a second. But just based off of these two, if we go off of the 53 last year, we broke camp with 6. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Samori Toure, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, and Malik Heath. Of those 6 right there, obviously, Bo Melton's going to make this roster. I think we would all agree, right? So,
yeah, you might as well swap Toure for Melton on that list there.
That's exactly what I see here too. And I think Grant DuBose is on the outside looking in as well. Does anybody disagree with that? If not, we'll just move forward because that seems pretty cut and dried.
No, but what's crazy though is that I'm pretty sure that this was an indication of what they thought the depth chart would be as well, just as far as the wide receivers and the skill positions go. And right there, obviously swap out Bo for Samari, but you could argue that it would be Jaden Reed, Dontavian, Christian, Dobbs, or any combination of those. Malik Heath, though, I hope still makes this team. And obviously, it's so crazy to think that our 5th wide receiver you could swap him to our wide receiver number 1, and I'd be like, okay, cool.
Right.
I don't care.
I'll tell you one thing: don't sleep on Grant DuBose. We're going to get
you love him so much.
We're going to get an entertaining camp out of him. I think he's going to get targets in the preseason games. He's hungry. He's been putting in the work. You talk about guys, like Wicks and Reed that were, working out together, putting in the extra work. Really, the season never really ended for them. They packed up their lockers and went right to work. So Grant DuBose is no exception. I mean, he's been working to get back from that injury since it happened. So I think, he's going to be ready to go. It's going to be interesting. If it's him or Toure, I think Toure gets the boot. I think we're over the Samari Toure experiment here. And if anyone's going to maybe get a shot at least being on the practice squad again, it's probably going to be Grant DuBose this year. I put him right behind Malik Heath, Yeah.
And if you were that last bit on that paragraph there was saying that he DuBose got signed to a futures reserve contract anyway. So probably same route moving forward this year.
Yeah. Emilio, thank you for pulling this up. I want to give a shout out to Fred McFarley. Thank you for the super chat /rant. They're called rants on Rumble. Appreciate you supporting the show, buddy. He says, I don't think Toure has a shot unless we have multiple wide receiver injuries in the preseason. Future Jet, they need wide receiver depth, and Aaron likes it. There you go.
I love it.
Yeah. Again, thank you so much for the rant, buddy. Thank you for the we're going to call them super chats /rants because everybody knows them as super chats. But thank you so much for supporting the stream, pal.
Can I ask him a question quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't honestly. Me. I love the discount, the 7th rounders, the UDFAs. I never looked into Grant DuBose much after he got hurt. I know it wasn't at Charlotte that he played for. What's his body type? / what's his receiver? What's kind of like the position that he would thrive in? Is he a possession receiver, one of those slot guys? He seems like he's a more bigger body guy, isn't he?
You talking about Grant DuBose?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
They have him 3rd behind Romeo Doubs, so I imagine they're treating him as an X. Now this is ESPN. Again, you kind of see Bo Melton in that spot as well for the most part because you want to isolate him on one side of the field, short side of the field. So they have him as an X. Honestly, the way I've always looked at Grant DuBose is he's more like a well-rounded wide receiver. I don't see him, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you see him as a slot, an X, or a Z? I just kind of see him as a receiver,
Yes. I was just going to say, yes, I see him as those.
I got him at 6'2", 201.
Yeah. So he's got the physical build. He's above 6 feet. That's a good sign, right? Above 200 pounds, that's a good sign as far as the wear and tear. And he's got good hands. I really, really believe that. He's probably, when it comes to the offense, as far as like bubble guys or under the radar guys, he's probably the guy I'm most excited to go see at camp this year. Just because, it was watching him and Malik Heath battle for a spot last year was entertaining. So this year will be no exception for sure.
And it's what somebody said in the chat earlier, man. There is just competition everywhere on this roster, man. If there was ever a year to go to training camp, this is the year. There's going to be some battles. Angus says, big body guy, good route runner and blocker. He was projected as possible 2nd rounder before his final season. So there you go, man. Showed a lot of upside. Had a down year, his final year in college is what it sounds like. So
4.57 40, 35-inch vertical, 10.5 broad jump, 6.89 cone drill.
That's a little start.
Put a little star next to Grant DeBose's name on your list of guys to watch, so you guys don't, if you're paying attention, boys and girls at home, make that.
And you know what? That, like Prince said just right now when we just showed it, like that's the Packers' MO. Jaden Reed, a lot of guys that like they looked good and they had kind of a fall off for whatever reason in year 2 or year 3, whatever the case is. And then all of a sudden the Packers are like, oh no, I know what you do. Why don't you come over here? Have some candy. I don't know why they're luring him.
What was that?
Get in my van, Grant DeBose.
Oh my God! Are you trying to say somebody sniffing Grant DeBose? All right, so Grant DeBose RAS score, if this is correct, was a 8.79. So, like Emilio said, 6'2", 201. The big thing that stood out was his 10-yard split, 152, which rated out as a 9.37. Obviously, that is the first 10 yards of the 40-yard dash. So he's got great acceleration, got good burst with the broad jump. So there you go. As far as the vertical, he graded out as a 6.12 at that 35, which I think, Emilio, you had him a little higher than that. The shuttle is definitely his weak point, but his 3-cone was decent at 7.67. So
I'd like to see his shuttle time now.
Yeah, right.
I bet you it's improved. I'd be willing to bet he's made an improvement.
I guarantee it. Number 4 on the list, Jacob's hero, Brenton Cox Jr., defensive end. So they've got him listed as a defensive end. I was wondering if maybe he would switch over to stack backer, where he kind of played that hybrid Viper top backer for Florida. But they've got him listed as a defensive end here. It says with 4 defensive ends locked in to make the roster, that's Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, LVN, and Kingsley Enagbari. The big question is whether Green Bay will keep a 5th. If they do, Brenton Cox Jr. has already begun to separate himself from the rest of his competition. After a troubled collegiate career, that's why Jacob likes him, Cox went undrafted last year. Green Bay scooped him up as a free agent, and he quickly showed his upside. He could benefit from another developmental year and should be able to stick around Green Bay to do so. Jacob, you remember last year, we're going to give you the floor with this, man, but they refused to try to pass him off on the practice squad. They knew he was going to get snatched up, right?
I mean, he was one of those guys that I sent that flashed like on the same level as when I sent you the Javon Bullard tape. That guy, Brenton Cox Jr., and don't get me wrong, it was a highlight reel. So what we learned about when we watch actual footage of Brenton Cox Jr., he was the epitome of what we were worried about last year when Rashawn Gary would just over pursue, and then people would just kind of slide up through that gap and just completely take advantage of that over pursuit. The thing is when he did click, when they did have him throw, kind of caution to the wind, or when you give him an assignment or a gap designation where he knew what his job was, he was lethal. And the guy batted down balls, which is quite like a lot of them. He was really good at getting his hands up, and he was an athletic freak against the pass rush and was pretty good against the rush as well. He was a little bit undersized. He had some stuff, who doesn't get kicked out of 2 top colleges, here or there every now and then. It sounded like he was more of a guy that was kind of I don't know. It sounded like he was a good teammate, but he would just freak out every now and then and just do some stupid stuff. And, that being said, I want, like Fred said right here, I swear, Cox is going to be that meat missile that is just going to be like a week in and week out, to the point where I really do think that he is going to be if he puts his hand on the ground too, if you watch his highlight reels, he did that quite a bit. He wasn't just kind of an edge defender. He did have his hand in the dirt. And like I said, he did defend against the run pretty well. He was great against the pass, even with the pass rush and with putting his hands up and batting balls down. I think that they'll keep him as a DN5. And if I don't think that they're going to put him on the practice squad, I think he'd still get taken.
Jacob was talking about him being that hothead, Brenton Cox Jr. being that hothead, always getting into trouble. Everybody listening to this podcast right now, watching the show live, you immediately thought of that one person in your group, right? Yep, that's him. That's that guy. And if you didn't, guess what? You were that guy, right? There's one in every village, I promise you, right? And again, you want that, as Brady Papinga once said, that aggressivity on your defense. But as long as it's not
our guys better wake up with their piss hot, like I said before. So,
and he does wake up with his piss hot. There's no 2 ways about it. Angus McHaggis says Jacob has a van with free hugs painted on the side. There you go. It's all rusted up. That old 80s style maroon Dodge van. You guys know what I'm talking about. Everybody's got an uncle that drives one.
Uncle Rico van.
The Arrow, the Astro van. You remember those things?
Oh,
They had the curtains on the windows.
So bad it's good.
We're talking meat missiles and curtains on the windows of sketchy vans.
Just the tip, though.
Christian Welch. God almighty, we ain't going to last long on you, too.
Oh.
Christian Welch, linebacker. The Packers want to keep more depth at linebacker than in years past as they transition to the 4-3 alignment. But how many does that mean? We know Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie, Eric Wilson, Edgerrin Cooper, and Tyron Hopper will likely make the team. Could Welch squeeze himself into that conversation as well, or squeeze himself into Jacob's van? If he does, it might come at the expense of a cornerback or safety. That means Welch will have to not only prove himself on defense, but show he can be a quality special teams contributor as well. So when we look at the depth chart here, the final 53 last year, keep in mind, last year we carried 5 inside linebackers, but again, we only carried 6 defensive linemen, however, 6 outside linebackers, which were essentially edge defenders, right? So look at it this way. Defensive linemen, those are your interior defensive linemen. So we carried 6 interior defensive linemen, 6 edge defenders, and then you only have 5 inside linebackers. I see the edge cutting back to at least 5, and that inside linebacker going to 6. So when you look at it from that angle, I think there's a decent chance Christian Welch can make the roster. The problem is, though, or the question is, can he play special teams? I'm going to give this one to Tim, our resident defensive fan here. What do you think, Christian Welch? You think he's got a legit shot to squeeze himself onto this roster if we carry 6, man? Because, again, they said, let's say we carry 6 this year. Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie, Eric Wilson, Edgerrin Cooper, Tyron Hopper. There's your top 5. Does Christian Welch make the roster as that 6th linebacker?
Yes. And that's probably the only way he makes the roster is if we in fact do go and take that extra backer going to the 43, like you mentioned earlier. I think that provides an easier path for him. However, let's not rule out the fact that we could see some camp bodies cycling in and out throughout the month of July and August here. And I don't know. I feel like Christian Welch is a special teamer, but I don't think we've seen enough.
Right.
So
really what it comes down to, Tim, it looks like to me looking at the depth chart, Christian Young, Christian Welch, and Aaron Mosby are probably going to be the guys competing for that last linebacker spot. I'm going with Christian Welch, and ESPN has him listed as a mock. I don't know if that's accurate. Where they, most of the time Rob Domofsky, from what I understand, gives a little bit of information here because he's right there in Lambeau Field on a daily basis. So maybe he's seen something that suggests Christian Welch is more of a mock. If that's the case, then I think Christian Welch has the edge over Christian Young and Aaron Mosby and even Keyshawn Banks. But as much as I want a linebacker whose name is Goforth on the roster, right? Goforth.
Rylan Goforth.
Goforth and smacketh someone in the mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
I like Keyshawn Banks too. I mean, I think you're right. If it's going to be for the 6th spot, it's going to be between Mosby and our boy
Welch.
Christian Welch, I think. So we'll see what happens.
I love it. Last year we broke camp with 26 defenders, Emilio. If Tim had say so, we break camp with 35, no doubt.
Right. Oh, definitely. We got to make sure.
Hey, let's bring it back, man. Start playing both sides of the ball again.
Yeah.
Iron Man football, man. Let's have a final 53 with 43 defenders. Let's go.
Christian Welch comes in 6'3", 240, 26 years old, from college, Iowa, and he's 5th season in the NFL. Had his first four with the Ravens, and he was born in Iola, Wisconsin. Iola, right? So,
Iola, yep.
Get it. Yeah.
Known for one of the
come
best
back
car
home.
shows in the country. Shout out to the Iola car show.
See?
Yeah. So Ron Stanville said Wilson, ? So obviously we're all assuming Eric Wilson's going to make the roster.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
As
Speaking
the
of special teamers, right?
Yeah.
Right. That dude is, and that's the thing too. Like when you talk about Tyler Davis, and so if it comes down to Ben Sims and Tyler Davis, is Tyler Davis and Eric Wilson kind of competing for that top special teams player? I'm choosing Eric Wilson over Tyler Davis.
Same.
But again, it may not come down to those two guys deciding on which one we keep. I think Eric Wilson is a lock for sure there, Ron. All right, cool. Let's see what else we got here. Up next on the list is Zane Anderson, safety. Again, last year we broke camp with 5 safeties. It was Darnell Savage, Rudy Ford, Jonathan Owens, Dallin Levitt, Anthony Johnson Jr. There's only one of those guys left on the roster. So if we carry 5 breaking camp this year, Javon Bullard, Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, Anthony Johnson Jr., Katan Oladapo, the question is, do we carry 6? I would say no. However, Katan Oladapo, if he's not ready and he's one of those guys that he starts the season on IR,
Injured.
that's how Zane Anderson makes the roster. But for me, I think Zane Anderson's out in this category here. What do you think, Jacob Emilio? What do you two guys think about this?
I think that just for the reason you just said, I think that Oladapo is just banking on the fact that he's going to get back from his injury, just slide right into the, maybe second, third, maybe if he's crazy first team. But I don't think that's going to actually happen. Like we talked about so many times, when you're injured, you just don't have the feel. Like if you ever played sports, I know that anybody that's played sports, if you aren't there with the team, even in the off season, you just feel like you're missing out. You're not there. You're not understanding like the team dynamic. You're not witnessing like certain adjustments and things you're learning from. So if you're not physically on the field, I just don't think, unless you are that much of a freak athletically and you just understand things, you can absorb the playbook like a sponge, and you don't need that much repetition to actually get it to a good level. I think it's going to hurt him. So I could see Zane Anderson. That made more sense to me than a lot of these guys on this list. And plus the fact Holly had like 3 interceptions in one practice the other day. So
yeah, definitely. Angus McHaggis says, depends how much we think they will be playing nickel with only 2 linebackers on the field. How many make the 53? The thing about that, Angus, and it's a great point, don't get me wrong, but you've got to be prepared to play base 43. You've got to be prepared, because if you come out and you play a team that just all of a sudden goes 12 heavy or even a 13 look like some teams are doing, you're screwed, especially if Oladapo is not healthy, right? Because that everyone's just kind of assuming he's going to be that hybrid kind of big nickel if Javon Bullard doesn't just move completely to the slot. In that case, you're looking at him like Brian Branch, of him just being a corner as opposed to a true safety. I think it's a great point, but for me, you got to be prepared because, again, in the olden days of pro football, it was simply you played your personnel based off of down and distance. Today, you're matching personnel, right? And if a team comes out and plays 12 and 13, you got to be prepared to have that 4-3 base out there. You get 1 or 2 injuries and you're only carrying, let's say 4 linebackers, 5 linebackers. Let's say you're only carrying 4 because you're looking at it like, we're going to be a nickel a lot of the time. You get 1 or 2 injuries in a game, you're screwed, right? You're going to have safeties out there trying to play stack backer in a base 43, and you're kind of, as my old ball coach used to say, you're pissing in the wind, boys. So, all right, last one, Kalen King. We're right up against the time limit here, so this worked out good. Kalen King was dubbed as one of the biggest steals of the draft after the Packers. Let me drop this down so you guys can see what I'm reading here real quick. I apologize. One of the biggest steals of the draft after the Packers selected him in the 7th round. That was after a down season at Penn State knocked him down from a potential first-round pick to one of the final selections in the entire draft in just 1 year. Now King might not even make a roster coming out of training camp. The Packers have 5 cornerbacks ahead of him with starting experience: Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, Carrington Ballantyne, Keyshawn Nixon, Corey Ballantyne. However, King can make the roster as the 6th corner if he shows enough potential. Hopefully he carries that chip on his shoulder from the draft. Now, here's what's crazy. We're talking about will they carry 6. The final 53 last year, we broke camp with 4. So I'm telling you, every position we uncovered, it's literally like the 03 Stooges segment where they're literally, they got a hole in the boat. It's like, we got to get the water out. So they screw another hole in the boat and they let that water. It's just literally, you plug one hole, you're springing a leak somewhere else, man. Like, this is going to be tough. I'm not looking forward to the podcast during training camp because it's going to be like a merry-go-round. We're just going to be constantly going, well, no, you keep him. No, we keep him. It's going to be wild, man.
You know what I venture to say? I want to have anybody in the chat try to maybe flag this. I bet you that this
don't
Packers
report
roster,
it. All right, don't report it on YouTube.
Yeah, I bet you that this Packers roster, when it's all said and done, when they actually cut down to the 53, there will be more of our cut team members that make other teams than years prior. Like, I really think so.
I can see that, man, for sure. Let's see here. Coach Lynn says, yeah, you don't want to look like the Cowboys on D, LOL, talking about playing too much nickel there, or at least building your roster in that regard, because that's what they were forced to do at times. But what do you guys think? Kalen King, man, this is tough. Again, you look at the roster here, Jair Alexander, Keyshawn Nixon. You've got Eric Stokes, Carrington Valentine. I think we're all agree those four are absolute locks. Corey Ballantyne might not be a lock, although you guys know how I feel. I think he should be. But if it comes down to, hey, we're just going to break camp with four like we have in the past, if that's the case, that roster battle is going to be Corey Ballantyne and Kalen King. And that's tough, man. That's a tough. Now, he did make it to the 7th round. Maybe he can make it onto the practice squad. I don't know. But, what do you think?
Something tells me that Eric Stokes is going to play some preseason ball this year. That's just a feeling I'm getting. So if that's the case, Kalen King's probably going to see less snaps. If someone's getting them, someone else isn't, right? But I do think that they're going to look to tune up Eric Stokes here going into this season to get him hitting the ground running after the struggles that he's had the past couple of years with the injuries. So that's something to pay attention to. I do see him getting more reps than usual for sure during the preseason.
Definitely. Emilio, you got anything, bro?
No, man, that's a battle. Like you said, I tried to count it out, but it's, with Keyshawn, Ja, Stokes, you don't think Valentine's going to get cut, right? Or try to put him on the practice squad? Can't do that? Or is he still young enough?
I don't think he is, to be honest with you. Now, I think you can put a couple of veterans on there now. I don't know how many. I need to know those answers to those.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do some digging, because would you feel better about bringing King on the roster this year and sending Valentine down to the practice squad?
You're saying Carrington Valentine or him?
Carrington, right? Not Valentine.
Yeah, Valentine for me. You
right. I'm saying Valentine send Carrington down, and then a battle sort of thing.
That's a great question. That could be the actual battle there, right? Because you guys know, I love him. He's from Kentucky, but I don't feel like Carrington Valentine played that well last year. I just don't.
Right.
Compared to Valentine. So what if imagine this? Let me just paint this doomsday scenario for you. What if you say we're keeping Carrington Valentine, you try to stash Kalen King on the practice squad, someone picks him up, adds him to the active roster, and he ends up being the darling rookie this year. Right. I will not be able to sleep at night, man. That would suck.
That's my worry. That's where I'm like, could we get away a little bit more throwing Carrington on the practice squad?
That's
and then
a great point. I didn't even think about it. That's a great point, Emilio. That might be the play there. Of course, we may look 2 weeks into camp and go, damn, Carrington Valentine's lighting it up, boys. Like, that's the point. Right. Let's see here. Let's finish up in the chat real quick. This was a fun little exercise, man. I'm glad we had time to do this. It's always cool to kind of get ahead of the curve there in that regard when it comes to camp battles and stuff, because it's right around the corner. I mean, obviously, they're going to be reporting. Rookies are going to report on the 17th, so it won't be no time. We'll be saying, hey, 2 weeks out, right? So AFM in the chat said King's greatest skill is screen and bubble pass recognition. Other than that, meh. I would agree with that for 2023. 2022,
so great against the Bears?
What's that, Kings?
I said, so we do great against the Bears?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, right.
Point. Well, Justin Fields is Bears anyway, right? Let's see here. Randy Cleaver says, have to find a way to keep King. Yeah, again, man, if he goes out and balls out somewhere else, I'm just going to throw up on my shoes. Ain't no doubt about that. Chris Nichols says King needs a shot. So it's pretty unanimous in the chat, man. All right, we'll wrap up with this. Number one Packer fan says, so we only doing Rumble now, LOL. Been looking on YouTube like a lost puppy, wondering what the hell's going on out here, LOL. I'll say this, and I'm not going to go too in-depth. I've had multiple people reach out to me and go, bro, stop getting notifications. This was back when we were still live. They said, check, I'm unsubbed to your channel. I did not do that. So, perfect job. So, again, I don't know. I wish there was someone I could talk to and go, hey, man, what's going on here? What the hell is going on out here? But there's like there's not a human being at YouTube that you can speak to. At least I haven't cracked that code yet. So, again, we'll always be on Rumble. We'll be on X. We're going to stay on YouTube as well. But it is what it is. You'll be able to find us somewhere for sure. And that's why we give out the email as well, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com, the text 865-658-5824. So you can always reach us that way.
Mm-hmm.
AFAM says TJ Slayton is meat lover skillet away from missing weight cuts. I'll tell you, man.
That's
I still
true.
haven't.
So there's a roster spot right there, right?
Yeah, but what's crazy is I still haven't found out if that was true. That statistic that was floating around Twitter, where he graded out like in the 80s when he played a one tech, which was like, holy cow! Like if and again, when we play that over front, which I showed you what Robert Saleh liked to do with the over front, that means TJ Slayton, if he's in the lineup there, he's going to be playing that one tech. Amelia, I don't know if you listened to the GM Shuffle, but they had who was it? Chris Ballard, the general manager for the Colts, on. Excellent in there. Again, I know Hambubger 869 on Twitter thinks Michael Lombardi's a moron, but they've got GMs hopping on the pod and talking ball with him. But he was talking about how you cannot have enough guys in the trenches, especially on defense.
Well, that's my worry is if you get rid of that weight, who are you asking to be our new nose on a goal line situation? Kenny's going to have to do this. Kenny's going to have to do the submerge.
I think AFAM, to his credit, saying I want him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's exactly it. We need exactly.
He is thick.
So that's the first thing he's going to say when he walks in there, TJ. And we need you on this team to be able to plug up the middle.
That's a great point because we've seen a lot of guys that look like they cut weight a little bit on our defense that have trimmed up, toned up a little bit. So
let everybody else get faster. We need somebody in the middle to stop them.
Just get in the way.
Right.
We're thick.
Exactly.
Need to be pretty.
All right, guys, this was fun. We had a ton of people watching. I know we had a bunch of people on Rumble. We have 63 on YouTube. We've got 184 on Twitter. Thank you all for hanging out. The numbers are growing like crazy. Again, we grew through the suspension on YouTube. We gained subscribers pretty much every day.
We're like Jair, man. We come out of the suspension better. You know, let's go.
It's a great.
Here to tell you PTA is back.
Here to tell you Pack is back.
You
Heard it from a fan.
I'm gonna recut that because we got to get the "you heard it from a fan" in there, man. I don't know what I was doing, but moving forward, I think there is about a
65%
chance that we stay on YouTube, but you never know. So
that was pretty good odds for us.
Yeah,
let's be realistic. It's way less than 65%.
That's not good.
All right. We're out of here, guys. Appreciate you. This was a lot of fun, man. We will be back tomorrow for PTA Live at 7 p.m. Central. Again, we'll be back. We just might not be back on all platforms, right? So unless you're predicting the world to end or something, Jay, is there something I don't know, man?
No, I'm just saying, just not to any specific one. Just, YouTube is great. I love YouTube. YouTube's the best. I would always watch on YouTube. But if for whatever reason you can't get on YouTube, then I guess maybe you should try to look at some of those other stuff that we talked about. I'm not even going to name them because I know I'll get flagged by the ultimate great YouTube, which is so awesome and great.
We almost made it out of here. All right. Well, we'll see y'all on the other platforms, I'm sure. Thanks, Jake.
You're an amazing person. You know that, don't you?
We went
Patreon package total access.
Yeah. 865-658-5824. All right. Y'all have a wonderful
International travel depression.
Hey, guys, please listen. Remember, all four of you. Really just these two. Tim, I trust you. But Emilio, Jacob. They can hear you, okay, as we close this thing down.
All right.
Now, Tim, help me
listen on the pod.
Thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. Don't be like these two knuckleheads. Go Pack, go.